It's Women's History Month, and so we have a lot of women on the show today to talk about their unique experiences, plus you still have to deal with me, a male. Sorry, not sorry. I'm Pastor Derrick, and this is Good Morning City on a Hill. Well, good morning, City on a Hill, and glad that you are with us for yet again another great episode. We've got a lot of really awesome stuff planned for you today. A couple of, I think, a little more serious, but also, I think, very edifying interviews with some really incredible ladies, and then, of course, a good game to play as well. Wouldn't be a show without one of those. First, I want to make you aware of a few things that are happening in the life of the church, just so you're up to speed. The first thing is something that I really have been excited to announce for a long time, and we needed to get kind of the details down before we unveiled it. But we're ready now. April 7th, we are launching our what we're calling our R&R service. It's a new service that we're offering. We have our Sunday morning worship services, and then on Wednesday night we have our R&R service. It's going to be from 6 to 6:40 p.m. in the worship center. And what this is for is rest and recovery. Rest and recovery. We have just been kind of in tune with the fact that life is getting busier and busier, that there are fewer places for people to find time to just sit in silence and pray, decompress, just sort of think about what's going on in their life, what's going on in the lives of their loved ones, and to have a small moment of worship. And so from 6 to about 6:30, it will be just some quiet music in the background. We'll have a scripture verse up on the screen, a couple of topics that you can pray about, and we invite you to come in to a quiet environment, to sit down. And if you just want to sit in silence for 30 minutes, that is totally fine with us. If you want to pray over those topics that we have up or meditate on that scripture verse, then we invite you to do that. If there's something else that you want to think through, pray about, then we invite you to do that as well. And then around 6:30, Kelsey is going to come up, lead us in one song of worship to allow us to all come together and worship. And then at about 6:40, I will pray us out of there and dismiss you to the various classes that all of you are participating in on Wednesday night. So it's just a nice kind of midweek rest and recovery time, our R&R service. We invite anyone and everyone to come to it. It'll be happening every Wednesday starting April 7th. Secondly, our Good Friday service is at 7 p.m., and it will be outdoors. We have, I think, decided that pretty firmly. We'll keep you in the loop, but just to allow as many people to come as possible. Now, of course, this is weather contingent. It'll be a stripped-down service, much like Christmas Eve was, if you came to that. So very, very quiet time of worship, not a super long amount of time to come and think about. And it'll be a somber, heavier service. We're going to be thinking about the death of Jesus. And then come back on Sunday morning to our outdoor Easter worship service. It is going to be fantastic. We are really, really excited. We've got a lot of great things planned, including some baptisms, so you'll definitely want to be a part of that. Last but not least, next week, starting this coming Monday, is spring break for most of the kids in our church, which also means Love Invasion is happening with the youth group, and so be in prayer for our youth ministry, for all of our students there, as well as our workers. We like to say around here that we hope that no lives end or begin at any youth event. And so pray with us that God would meet them where they are and speak into their lives in a powerful and meaningful manner. Coming up next, I am bringing on our favorite Australian, Emma Cunnington, our very own children's pastor. We'll be right back. Well, welcome back to the show.
Thanks.
It's always a pleasure to have our children's pastor, Emma Cunnington, on. And how are you?
I am good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. I can't decide which one of us is going to make an Australian reference first. This past week, James legitimately, when we were talking, and I think Chris was in the room, because I don't remember what we were talking about, but he did say, he goes, yeah, doesn't Emma have some kind of like Australian heritage in her background? And I just thought, like, I've achieved the pinnacle. It's all downhill from here.
Right.
Everyone.
Everything is. Yeah.
Everyone believes it. Everyone believes it. It's a good thing. Well, Monday was International Women's Day.
Yep.
And it is Women's History Month this month. And so we thought we would have you on to the show as a longtime staff member and incidentally a woman, to
Crazy.
talk about your perspective specifically with regard to ministry. Obviously, you've been at City on a Hill now for, what year did y'all come?
We came summer of 2012.
2012, okay, that's what I was thinking. 2011, 2012, so
Almost
yeah.
9 years.
Going on 9 years, man. Your decade is next
Right.
year. That's a big deal. 10 years of working with your old pal, Derrick.
Survived.
Yeah, you've survived. So almost 10 years at the church, but then you did missionary work through PAYS for several years before that.
Since I was 18.
Since you were 18. So that's like 45 years now.
Right?
Yeah.
It's got a lot.
Because you're like in your mid-50s now, aren't you?
No, it's crazy.
That's my next rumor I'm going to start.
There we go.
How many years actually is it?
16.
16 years.
Wait, is that right?
That's incredible.
I'm 34.
Yeah, 16. That's right. Yeah, that's exactly right. 30. So 16 years. That's incredible. So that's a long time. So how this is kind of I think an interesting first question. So as a woman in ministry, you no doubt face certain, I think, disadvantages, if we want to call it that, that guys don't face. How would you say those disadvantages have changed over, like, is it the same today as it was 16 years ago? In some ways, maybe yes, maybe not, but have you noticed any major changes in the landscape of being a female in the ministry workplace?
I mean, obviously things have changed. Like, I mean, for me personally, things have changed. Like, age is,
Yeah.
I was 18.
Right.
When I started in full-time ministry, so I'm sure the way people look at me now than when they did is very different.
Right.
The experience I've had, I think, adds kind of a lot to probably what people see
Right.
in me ministry. It definitely, I mean, there's definitely, I guess, more like high-profile women in ministry. So I think that's probably made a big
impact.
A big difference. Yeah. Some people that I've kind of looked up to and followed in what they've been doing, obviously on a more national scale. But
Yeah.
so I think that's probably made it more accessible for women to be in ministry.
That's good.
So,
That's really good. How would you say regions have changed? Because you've hopped around. Like you obviously started in Australia and then went to England.
Went to England for a little bit.
For a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
And then you were in Longview, if I remember correctly.
I was in Longview.
Yeah.
That was an experience.
I bet it was.
I was in a Southern Baptist church.
Yeah.
So having grown up in England, which I actually grew up in, coming to Longview was culture shock. And I remember one Sunday someone sat me down and explained to me why I should be wearing a skirt to church.
Oh, right.
Which I didn't own any at that
Like
point.
the Bible
I wasn't
says,
like
right?
I wasn't a girly girl, so I didn't.
Right.
I liked pants. It was fine. And so I was like, wow, I'm in a different place right now.
Yeah. This is very weird.
So yeah.
That is interesting.
Yeah, very different.
So regionally, Longview, I've got family that live there as well. We've gone there, a few times, and then some other surrounding East Texas towns. I think probably have some stronger opinions than say Fort Worth.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely. So.
Yeah.
Very conservative. What women were able to do there was a lot more kinda restricted. Yes.
Yeah.
So
interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. What would you like to see change? I mean, are there things that I think that the discussion. This is such a hard discussion to have in a biblical context because there is at least one role. From a church perspective that the Bible seems to be pretty clear about with regard to male leadership.
Right.
And my personal conviction, although it never explicitly says this, is that is somewhat tied to the role of the husband in the home, which is another place where we see very distinct roles.
Right.
Equal in every way,
yes,
but distinctly different. They cooperate with one another rather than compete. And so how would you like, though, to see, because while we hold to those convictions, there's no question that churches have taken a lot of liberty to go well beyond the bounds of what the Bible dictates.
Right.
And so how would you like to see the church find that balance? Are you someone that, as a woman, looks at the role of, like, say, an elder and goes, yes, I believe that's for a male, that women shouldn't do that. Or, so, you see what I'm saying? Like, there are churches that are on both sides of the spectrum, and I think the tendency is to swing from like ultra conservative to like everyone can do anything they want.
Right.
Yeah. So how do you find that balance, and what should churches do to get there?
I think, I guess I can speak from my perspective as a woman. My comfort in my position has really come when I've become more comfortable with who I am and what God's created me to be. So I think what my personal opinion of what I see in the world at the moment is there's a lot of everyone should be able to do whatever you want, and whatever everyone should have the same kind of rights to do everything. And I don't believe that God created us for that. God created us differently. God created men and he created women. And I think he created us to complement each other.
Yes.
And I think that when we as women start to really embrace what we're good at and what we're made for,
yes,
we find the purpose in that, which is, I think, really what we're looking for. We're looking for purpose. We're looking for worth. We're looking to be valued in what we have to offer and to bring. And I think when we kind of really settle into that need to be in like a head pastor position or whatever, I don't think is so great, because we find purpose in the other roles that we can do really well.
Right.
Like, I know I've heard people say before, well, women should just be in women's ministry and children's ministry. And they say that like that's not an important place to be.
Right.
And I'm like, and this is what I think about children's ministry, and this is why I love that I get to do it. I would argue that the children's ministry is the most important ministry in the church, because I read there's a Barna study from, I think, the late 2000s, where I think it's over 70% of people that become a Christian do so before the age of 13. So arguably, like that's my window.
That's the
right?
time.
That's the time that if we're going to reach people, the greatest chance of doing that is before there. So I think if we can see the importance of the different roles, that I don't feel like there's such a need to be, I got to be that head person. I got to be the person in charge. I got to be the front face of this. And my personality is not someone that's wanted to be that. Like, I would never want your job. You can have that. I'm perfectly fine with
it's not a lot of fun
where I am. Because I find purpose in what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I know that it's worthwhile. I add value to the church.
Yeah.
And so I think each woman has to kind of realize that for herself and find that. And that's why, like, your series, like Gifted, is so important, because those are the times where we can figure out, okay, well, what am I good with?
Right. How
do I serve? Where can I get plugged in? How do I find my purpose and what I can bring? And,
that's huge.
That can it can change people.
It's huge. Yeah, the complementary, I think that terminology is really, that's why we use it, because it is so, I think, descriptive of how God intends us to operate. And I think about my own home, and obviously, Jessica and I have very different strengths, very different weaknesses, and I'm like kind of like the fun dad that wants to like go and do all the crazy things, and she loves that about me, because she's not. She's very like, it's 8:00 bedtime, and they have to brush their teeth, But then the other side of that is like, she's thinking as a mother that like, if my children don't go to sleep, they're not going to be well rested, and they're not going to be high performing. If they don't brush their teeth, they're going to get cavities, and there's going to be pain, and there's going to be all these consequences from it. At night, there have been times where we've gotten home late, Wednesdays in particular, because I teach, Cam goes to Peace Out. And so we don't do bedtime till closer to 9:00. And there are nights where it's like 9:15 and it's getting later, and we're trying to get bedtime going, because now it's like 45 minutes past. We usually put them down around 8:30. And yet she will still go like, I'm gonna do like 7 to 10 minutes of story time with them. And it's not because she's trying to be fun like I am. I'm like, why are you doing that? It's past fun time. We need to go to bed. Yeah. But for her, it's not fun time. It's like, this is a time to bond with the girls and set up these like traditional values that mean something. Yeah. And she does that better than I do. And so it's like, we have really learned to lean on one another and lean on one another's strengths. And, scripturally, she sees my leadership as, the head of the household. Right. But I see myself in that role as, I would be crazy as a leader to not listen to her strengths to inform my decisions. Right. Because she's better at some of those things than I am.
That's true.
There's no question about it. So, I think that having that complementary understanding coupled with an understanding of how God has wired you up
Right.
is really important.
Mm-hmm. And Chris and I have served in ministry together, full-time ministry, for our entire married dating life. That's what we did. We just served together, and there was a point at which I was really struggling with that aspect of it, because he was being invited to meetings that I wasn't invited to, and we'd been serving in the ministry the same amount of time, and at one point I was like, why don't I? Is it because I'm a woman? Like, is that why I'm not?
Right.
And then kind of as I really became more kind of okay with who I am and what I'm made for, I realized I wouldn't be any good in that. Like, I'm getting upset about being a part of something that I wouldn't excel in. It's not what I'm made for.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people have seen us work together, and there's the jokes like nothing would be organized if Chris didn't have me around, which is probably true.
True. It's very true.
But it's that I bring worth in that, and he brings worth to me and value to me, and the way we work together. So I think it kind of
That's awesome.
Looks the same.
That's awesome. So last question: How does the church foster this kind of thinking? Because the risk that I run is I could teach a class on complementarianism, and I'm going to be faced with a lot of people going, "Well, yeah, of course you think women should submit because you're a man."
Right.
So where do you find women become the most receptive to this kind of message?
I think obviously from other women. But I also think when they see men who are willing to stand up for women in the right way. Yeah. So it's funny, I saw a Facebook video on this week, I think you probably saw it too, the pastor that was preaching about what a woman should look like and how they should, I made it 3 minutes in before I turned it off.
I didn't even make it that far.
He had a Bible in his hand, and everything he was saying was not
in the Bible.
It's not in the Bible. I'm like, you might as well put that down because you're not reading it.
Yeah.
But I think that's part of the rub probably is for women that, when a man says that, it's like, well, you've got these other examples of men that abuse that position, and it has been abused. And I think the more that churches call that out and deal with that, the safer women will feel under good male leadership.
Yes.
That I submit to my husband because I know my husband is a good man and he has my best interest at heart.
Yes.
And that when he is seeking God, he's looking for the decision. He's trying to make the decisions that are best for the family, not just for him.
Yeah.
And so I'm okay with submitting to my husband because he is that person.
Yeah.
And if he was an abusive husband, I wouldn't be okay with that.
Well, and I tell guys that all the time when I'm counseling with married couples who are having issues, and inevitably that comes up where, she doesn't respect me. And I always will, like 99% of the time, lean on the fact that you're not doing anything for her to respect you in.
Right.
If you want your wife to respect you and follow you, you have to give her something to follow.
Right.
If she doesn't think that you have her best interest in heart, why would she?
Right.
Why would she do that?
Right.
And I always, Jessica and I always tell people that we meet with that, like, I want to live a life with her in the way that, and we are so non-traditional in so many ways. Like, the traditional, like, the woman cooks. The woman doesn't cook in my home. I cook. And I am cool with it, right? I'm totally fine with it. I take the kids to school in the morning.
Yeah.
It's not because, it's just because our life schedules work out. And those are the kind of, like, I think sort of dumb things that churches in particular have laid on, stereotypes that they have laid on men and women as if they're uniquely male or female. They're not at all. Yeah. But I always say that, like, at the end of the day, I want people that we meet with to look at us and go, I may not agree with everything that they think. I may not even agree with the way that they believe marriage should be done, but I want someone who would love me that way, whether they're looking at me or her. I want someone who would love me. And I, Jessica, there's no one I trust more in the world than Jessica. Jessica is as fallen as anyone else. I don't try to lift her up on any sort of pedestal, but Jessica has earned my trust because she's the most loyal person in my life. And because of that, I want to live and lead in a way that makes her feel protected. And I haven't always done that. As a young man, I didn't understand that. I didn't get her felt needs, and I didn't understand how certain decisions I made could make her feel, and so that's something that I've had to learn. And I think that's the value of young people being in church settings with older married couples. that's a fad, a trend that it's like you see these like very age selective and even like, people through the years have wanted like singles ministry and there's value in all that. Not to talk down on any of that. But man, there's so much value in being with older people. And I know for her and I both, there were so many times where we were in life groups with people 20 years older than us. And I wouldn't trade anything in the world for that because that's where I learned. That's where I learned what to do and sometimes what not to do.
Right.
Some of those people in those groups weren't.
They haven't figured it out yet.
They hadn't really figured it out yet. Yeah. So I think there is some kind of value for that. But man, that is it's great to hear your perspective on this. I thought, we can't keep it all serious because it wouldn't be a lot of fun without some fun. So coming up next, we have a little bit of a game we're going to play, and I will tell you more about it after this. Okay, so we've got a game to play.
We do.
It's called 5-Second Summaries. And the basis of this game is that we have a stack of cards with movies on them.
Okay.
These particular movies all have strong female leads in them. So just to clarify, this is 5-Second Summaries Women's Edition. What we're going to do, in light of Women's History Month. So, but I'm still playing even though I'm not a woman. So here's what's going to happen is I will pull a card or you will pull a card depending on who goes first. Okay. A timer will start with 5 seconds on it. And you will have to, or I will have to, describe the movie in such a way that you can guess without saying any of the words on the card. And we only have 5 seconds to do the description. Now, after the 5 seconds is over with, you can still, we can sit there for a minute and, think, based on what they said. I don't have to guess within the 5 seconds, in other words.
Okay, that's better.
Yeah, that's better. But it does get worse. So after the first several cards, it goes down to 3 seconds. Oh, and if that weren't bad enough, for the final card, 1 second. So that means if you pull a card up and you go, and then the second's over with, that's all I have is to decide what movie you're.
I think you're good enough. You should be able to do that.
I should be able to figure that out. Yeah. Yeah. So let's begin. I'm going to just say, as a gentleman.
Oh my goodness, you're going to make it first.
Ladies first.
Thanks.
Ladies first. So let's do it.
Do I get to look at it before the 5 seconds?
No. So, right? You don't? Yeah, you pull it up and that's when the timer starts. So.
I know these movies.
And go.
Superhero. A W on the chest.
Oh, Wonder Woman. Nailed it. Gal Gadot. All right. And go. Oh, baseball, and it's all ladies with Tom Hanks.
No clue. Baseball?
Yeah, baseball. There's no crying in baseball. There's no crying in baseball.
I mean, I've heard that, but I could not tell you what movie that comes from.
A League of Their Own.
No clue.
You need to go home and watch this movie.
There's going to be like a pile of those, just so you know.
I'm so tempted to quote apart from this movie, and I'm using every filter possible not to because it has a word in it that I shouldn't say. Let's go.
Oh, it's really old. It's got flowers in the title, and...
Driving Miss Daisy.
No.
No. Can I keep guessing? It's really old. How? You can't say how old. It's really old. Emma's like 20, so it can't be that old. I'm just kidding. You're my age. I got nothing.
Steel Magnolias.
Steel Magnolias.
Also not seen that movie.
Wow, you have some homework to do. You have some homework to do. Okay, Let It Go. Let It Go.
Frozen.
Yes, look at that.
Seen that one.
You've seen that one. Children's Pastor. Okay.
I still get 5 seconds. Right?
Yeah.
Oh, your favorite. Ren. Is that her name?
My favorite?
No.
Oh my gosh.
It's so bad. It's also not her name.
Is it the Force Star Wars? The Force Awakens?
No, you're so close though.
The Last Jedi?
No.
The Rise of Skywalker?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
It's Rey. That was the name I was going
When you
for.
said Ren, I was like,
I was
Kylo
close, right?
Ren? And then you go, that's not her name. Or that's her name. I'm like, no, it can't be right. Okay, how many of these until, let's see, we have one, so we're down to 3 seconds now?
Yeah, you gotta do another one.
One more round. Okay, and go. Oh my gosh, this is about a maid. That's all I know. I've never seen this movie, but it's another term for a maid.
Another term for a maid?
Mm-hmm.
Oh dear.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of a derogatory term. I know it's not the...
You're not allowed to say anything.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
I'm so not gonna get this. Cinderella?
No, that's a good guess. I mean, to be fair, that is a good guess. 2011's The Help.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if that's really... The maid is even helpful there.
That's
but
not
it's
super
kind
helpful.
of,
I mean, chocolate pie would have been more helpful, but there we go.
Chocolate, yeah. So I've never seen it, so I don't know. We're down to 3 seconds, so we're killing it in the 5-second range. This should be great. Let's see how we do.
This is gonna be so bad.
And go.
Katniss Everdeen.
Oh, The Hunger Games. Wow! Look at us. We're nailing it.
It's so much easier when you've seen the movie.
Good. Oh gosh. I have no idea what this is. So I don't know.
I don't think I'm gonna get that one.
Don't think you're gonna get it either. Hidden Figures.
Oh, I haven't even heard of that.
No. I've heard of it, but I've never seen it.
Never heard of it.
So I can't describe it. Sorry, guys. Sorry. How many do we have left? We have, okay, so these are the last ones for 3 seconds, and then we go down to 1 second.
What's her name? Oh, the yellow. There was no complete sentence there. I'm so sorry.
I'm going off of yellow.
Which, if you guess it, it'll make sense.
Yellow.
Right? Do you get that?
Snow White.
No. Kill Bill.
Okay, that's the first thing I thought of was Kill Bill, but I thought there's no way they put this on a church show. Dang it! I have seen Kill Bill before.
You just admitted that.
I did. All right. This is about not big ladies, but...
Little Women.
Yay! See, I had to just get creative because I've never seen it either.
Oh dear.
1 second.
1 second.
Here we go.
It's not gonna be pretty. Oh.
What are Captain Marvel? I'm just throwing out anything that...
I don't even know how this is. Aliens.
Yeah, Sigourney Weaver. Killer.
Not seen that.
Killer. Symbol of strong.
I was the
femininity.
wrong person to pick for this game.
To be fair, it's what makes it fun.
My movie knowledge is.
That's what makes it fun.
If this was rom-coms, though, I'd just like you to know, I'd be killing it.
But then we'd be the typical guys who had the woman on and did some rom-com thing. Just perpetuates that narrative. All right, let's see it. Ready and go. Belle.
Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
Again, Children's Pastor.
Children's Pastor. Crushed it. Absolutely crushed it. Man, I can't believe I should have said Kill Bill, but then I thought if I say Kill Bill, people are going to be like, why is he using... Anyways, it doesn't matter.
Yellow cover.
Doesn't matter. It is yellow cover. She wears the yellow jumpsuit,
right.
yeah, with the sword. In fact, Volume 2 is red. But Volume 1 is yellow. Just full confession time. Apparently seen them both. Thanks for being on.
Thanks.
Yeah, this has been a whole lot of fun. Coming up next, we have another interview with another lady, Laurie Campbell from the Women's Choice Resource Center. We're going to be talking about her role there and their fight for pro-life, and another really great, opportune interview to have in Women's History Month. Absolutely. So thanks for being on. Thanks. And have a good day, mate. Well, it was a lot of fun, and of course now something we've been looking forward to for some time. We are welcoming in Laurie Campbell from the Women's Choice Resource Center. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
It's really good to have you here. For those of you who are not aware, the Women's Choice Resource Center we have been in partnership with for how many years now? Before I came.
Decades.
Yeah.
I think it's been since early 90s.
Yeah.
Mid-90s.
I was going to say early mid-90s probably. I came on staff in 2008, and we had been long since partnered with you guys. So several of your banquets, Jessica and I have been table hosts and all kinds of stuff. We really love the ministry y'all do. But for those who are here watching, tell us a little bit about what the Women's Choice Resource Center is.
Well, we're a evangelical, pro-life crisis pregnancy center in East Fort Worth. So we do free pregnancy testing and free limited sonograms, and all of our services are free. And we are there to just help women in crisis pregnancies and talk to them about Jesus and come alongside them when they do choose life. Of course, we're trying to persuade them to choose life, whether that's parenting or through making an adoption plan. But we just want to come alongside them and help them with diapers, help them find housing, help them find a job if they need it. We just have a lot of resources at our disposal. And so we don't want to just tell them, don't have this abortion, that's the wrong thing to do.
Right.
We want to persuade them not to do that, but then come alongside them and show them that we're there to support them, and it helps validate that life and give that life purpose when they know that there's people in their lives who want to come alongside them and help them.
That's amazing. One of the things that always drives me a little bonkers when we have these conversations with people is, people who are kind of critical of Christians will say things like, well, yeah, y'all are all about pro-life before the womb, but like, what about after? And the thing that I think people fail to realize is that for organizations like yours and several others that are Christian, evangelically driven, it's so much more.
Right.
In fact, the don't have an abortion is like the small little part of what y'all are doing.
Right.
There's this whole wealth of other resources that you guys are putting forth, and I think that's an important thing for people to understand, because it isn't as simple as just choose the right choice, but how are we effectively helping these ladies?
Exactly.
Now, one of the things you said was a crisis pregnancy. So explain to the people what you mean by that.
Well, we'll help anybody who needs a pregnancy test. They don't have to be in crisis, but just for women who, it's just an unplanned thing.
Okay.
And I mean, they can be married, and it could be unplanned, and they could see it as a crisis financially, or, oh, I'll have to quit my job, or, he's abusive, or, I mean, there just can be all kinds of reasons that they find this pregnancy unplanned is a crisis for them.
Yeah.
So, but, we have women come in who are excited to be pregnant, and we will do their pregnancy tests and walk them through, the sonogram process, and, help them with diapers as well. So.
That's awesome. So how does this work? If a woman comes in, is there a fee they have to pay? Is there any kind of charges that they're...
No, everything is absolutely free.
Wow.
We don't charge them anything.
Wow, that's amazing. So how do you guys do that?
We fundraise.
Okay, yeah.
So we have a couple of annual fundraisers. One is typically in the past, up to now, been a big dinner.
Yes.
With a speaker and all of that.
And it's incredible.
And we haven't been able to do that in a couple of years because of COVID. But then we also have a golf tournament, which City on a Hill started.
Yes.
So y'all are very involved in that.
We have lots of golfers.
Right. So we have that in the fall. And then we just do some other little things. North Texas Giving Day. Okay. We do diaper drives, baby bottle fundraisers. Right. And then we have church partners like City on a Hill, Sagamore Baptist. And,
a lot of others as well. Yeah. That's awesome. How many clients do you serve?
We typically, I was looking at our average over the last 5 years, around 11 to 1,200. This last year, we only did 921. Only 921.
Right. Well, and all things considered, with people being afraid to be around people, that's pretty amazing.
Right.
That's like a 25% at most drop, which that's better than what churches are doing. I think we're operating at least at 50% right now. And so, I think there's God is obviously blessing you
Yes.
in ways that are very amazing. I want to switch gears for a minute and talk to you about, because this is another one of those things where in the evangelical church, and probably even outside of it, although the church is kind of my area, so it's what I'm used to, you will hear people say things like, regardless of like what administration or who's where, abortion is abortion, nothing has changed, Roe v. Wade's still in place, there's never going to be any difference between whoever is running the country. And I just thought it'd be interesting to hear from you, having been in this position for as long as you have, your experience with that, how you've seen through the years laws regarding abortion affect what you are able to do. Because what you're doing is amazing. You're not charging anybody. I mean, you're not really in anybody's way. You're not burdening society in any way. People are giving money out because they believe in what you're doing. So talk a little bit about how that has affected you.
Well, it used to be that I'm old enough to remember that abortion was supposed to be safe, legal, and rare, right?
Okay, yeah.
And now you don't even ever hear
Those
that
are-
anymore.
those are not
Nobody
terms,
says anything
no.
about abortion being rare. It's supposed to be all access all the time from
Right.
right up to the point of delivery. And so that has definitely changed, just the mindset. And I think that comes from just that pro-abortion side of our society, the Planned Parenthood and NARAL and Guttmacher and all of that under that one umbrella. They're really anti what we do.
Yes.
And for the life of me, it's really hard to figure out why. Because they get billions of dollars from the government and they, fundraise like crazy. And so I've just decided it's pretty much a spiritual thing. That we can do. We're just the antithesis of them. I can't even say that right. We're just the opposite of them, and they hate it.
Yeah.
They absolutely hate it. So what has happened is Roe v. Wade, people don't really know this, but Roe v. Wade meant that you could get an abortion in all 9 months of pregnancy. People thought there were limitations on it, and there weren't.
Right.
So over the years, the states have limited abortion within the states. So right now in the state of Texas, it's illegal to have an abortion after 20 weeks gestation.
Okay.
Now, there's all kinds of caveats to that.
Right.
So it can happen after that if there's,
Other factors.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly. Also, you're not supposed to be able to, if you're under the age of 18, get one without your parents' permission.
Right.
But we know that also happens.
Yep.
So Texas is pretty pro-life, but when you look at the size of a 20-week baby, we can do better.
Yeah.
We can do much better than that.
Absolutely.
So anyway, I kind of got sidetracked. But so we've just seen the mindset change. And we've seen that Planned Parenthood and those kinds of organizations have started coming after organizations like mine. So for instance, in California, just a few years ago, the California state attorney, who at the time happened to be Kamala Harris, in partnership with Planned Parenthood, they decided to write a law that all the crisis pregnancy centers had to display in their waiting rooms where to get the closest place to get an abortion. And it had to be in a particular size font, and it had to be displayed there. It had to be. And every day that it wasn't, they were fined thousands of dollars.
Wow.
So those pregnancy centers in California got together, and there's an organization called National Institute of Family Life Advocacy, and NIFLA, and they're one of our national affiliates. And so they went to bat for these pregnancy centers in California, and the case went all the way to Supreme Court, and NIFLA won. Wow. So
that's huge.
Yeah. So I mean, that was anti-free speech. That was coercion. I mean, that was just all kinds of things. And so the Supreme Court said, no, you don't have to display that. But Kamala Harris started that lawsuit she was replaced when she became a senator by Becerra, forgetting his first name right now. But he is who Biden is wanting to appoint as his Health and Human Services Secretary.
Wow.
So another very anti-life, just not even, you can't even really call them pro-choice if they're coming after organizations like me. Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
That's an anti-life person. So it's just things like that. For another example, a few years before that, when Google first became kind of a thing, and that's where women started looking for, pregnancy tests or shopping for an abortion or whatever. It was very organic.
Right.
And so my organization, if I was closer to her than Planned Parenthood, could pop up in front of an abortion clinic or on top of. Well, that made them very upset. That made them very upset that they could see my ad and come in, not my ad, but just my listing, and come in and see me and not them. So what they did was they went to Google, Planned Parenthood literally went to Google and said, this isn't fair, this isn't right, we need you to do something. So literally Google lowered, by using an algorithm, all pregnancy centers, and it was no longer organic. So a woman is searching, free pregnancy test even, or abortion alternatives, or the keyword just abortion, and automatically all the pregnancy centers were going to get shoved to the bottom of that search, and all of the pro-abortion options were going to go to the top. Then a few years later, that wasn't good enough because we started raising money for ads. So, and it cost me about $1,000 a month to run an ad so that my
organization
name
can be
will
seen.
Will go to the top,
right.
At least the top half of the page when she's searching. And so they were like, oh my gosh, these people are raising money. Now, they're back in competition with us, so we got to do something else. So they went back to Google. And they said they're false advertising. They're using the same keywords as we are, abortion, termination, stuff like that, because we give information on that.
Sure.
All of my people are very trained on all the different types of abortion and what happens and the gestation of the baby and the development and all that. We're very, very educated, and we can talk to women about what that is going to look like, what that process is going to be for them.
If I'm not mistaken, some of your women have even
former
been in abortion clinics.
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, they're not just it's not just theoretical knowledge. They've got some practical knowledge as well.
Yes, we have post-abortive women. So so they went to Google and said, this isn't fair. Now they're raising, now they have money to run ads alongside ours or above ours, so you have to do something. So now the ad that I pay for, has a little disclaimer next to it, a little flag that says that I do not perform abortions.
Wow.
Against I don't want that there. That's not part of what I'm asking for. So all crisis pregnancy centers have that little red banner there next to their ad that says, does not perform abortions.
That is incredible.
So.
And not surprising.
Right.
Not surprising. And I think it's interesting that you use the term, anti-life, because, we've been talking a lot recently at our church about the effects of postmodernism in the world, a worldview that is driving especially the younger population. It's being driven in many secular universities. I would say the majority of secular universities. And it is a worldview that attacks any sense of objectivity or truth. And so, as I'm listening to you talk about this, I just keep kind of coming back to that postmodern problem that your organization and organizations like yours are an issue because by definition, you are saying there is an alternative way that is better. And so you're creating a hierarchy. Now, we agree, biblically speaking especially, there really is only one way, which is life. But the truth offends. And I think that, I was listening to another interview by another clinical psychologist earlier this week who talked about, to even think about issues requires the risk of offending. And that's just the reality of where we're at today. That's the world that we live in. To say anything, to think critically about anything, you run the risk of offense. And boy, is there a lot of it. I'm just grateful that we have people willing to do it. And people like yourself and others who are in this business. Because it's not just a business. This is a truly, like you said, it's a spiritual war. But it's also a war over actual life. You know, these are, again, we're not arguing concepts. We're not arguing theories. We're not arguing worldviews. We're talking about living souls.
Right.
And what an amazing opportunity that you have to bring impact in that way to these women. So, well, that's interesting. Let's see here. What else do we have? I've got a few other questions I wanted to ask. How do you? This is a really important one for people at home. How do you approach talking to someone who maybe has a either pro-choice or even anti-life worldview? How do you have this discussion with them?
Beat my head on that wall
Yeah.
so many times.
Yeah, right.
Picking fights on Facebook and such. It's such a spiritual thing. So you can even have believers who have bought into the lie that a woman's right to choose is her right. It's a God-given right. And it's a lie. It's a lie from the pit of hell. And so when someone is darkened by that lie, the only thing that's going to penetrate is the Holy Spirit. Yeah. And so if you have to have a conversation like that with someone like we do daily, you just have to be prayed up. And you have to be armored with the truth about what the Bible says about life and how, God formed us in our mother's womb. Yeah. And you have to just be armed with facts. But even the thing that's so frustrating is that even with all the tools that I have, all the baby models that I have, all the knowledge that I have, the sonogram machine that I have that shows them a beautiful moving picture in full color of their baby and shows them a beating heart. All of those tools, all of this knowledge that I have that we can impart, we can still have someone, after seeing all that, go, no, this is what I'm going to do. And you just kind of shake your head like, how can you decide to do that based on everything I just said? Yeah. It doesn't make any sense. It's not critical thinking. No. And the only answer is just spiritual darkness. Yeah. It's just they're just believing a lie. And Planned Parenthood and the pro-choice, pro-abortion people have been very, very good at just spinning this lie over and over and over again that, it's a woman's body and she has a right to choose and that's just tissue and it doesn't feel pain and, now it's not the right time just all of the lies. And so our society, they just hear that. Yeah. They're just inundated with it. And unless you meet that full on with the truth of God's word and his Holy Spirit resonating with you, that doesn't line up with Scripture. That doesn't line up with, these are image bearers of God. And so it's just a spiritual thing. And you've got to pray, and you've just got to know that God is talking through you. And if they're not ready,
there's no, that's good.
It's just darkness. It's just blinders.
So that brings me to another question. I see this a lot, and especially in my generation, but in older generations as well. I think propensity to feel like being pro-life means posting about it on social media, which is, not a bad thing, but effectively, how can Christians actually do something about this? Obviously we can give to organizations like yours. We should give to organizations like hers, by the way, out there. But more than that, what are ways that Christians at City on a Hill and in other churches could say, hey, I'm tired of posting on social media. I post about it all the time. All I'm doing is upsetting people who disagree with me, and all the people who agree with me are kind of, but nothing is really happening. How do I get involved in the fight?
Mm-hmm. That's a great question. So we have lots of volunteering opportunities.
Good.
If they are, feel anointed and called to do that, then we have lots of opportunities for people to meet with the girls and talk to them about their pregnancy. We have lots of opportunities. If you're not comfortable talking with them about their pregnancy, you can just talk to them about Jesus.
Yeah.
So we have, spiritual advocates and program advocates. And we even in February began doing that with the men. And we have awesome. Coaches, Real Dads coaches, who are available some of our shifts to meet with the dads-to-be that come in. And that's very exciting. So there's volunteer opportunities. I would just say, be informed about candidates that you vote for. Yeah. Vote pro-life. I would say just learn what there's always legal things going down. It's just always changing. And so anytime a state even does something more pro-life with their law for their state, it immediately gets, what am I trying to say? It immediately gets challenged and, has to work its way through the court system, because somebody's just always going to say, well, you can't do that. Right. that doesn't give a woman a right to choose, or whatever. So just be aware of those things, particularly in your state, and voting pro-life and prayer.
Yes.
So we just really need to pray that. I set an alarm on my phone every day.
That's awesome.
Based on if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray. So at 7:14, because I think that's in Chronicles 7:14. So at 7:14, which is kind of an odd time, my alarm goes off and I know that I'm supposed to stop and pray. And so I'm just asking God to take away abortion from our land and to just open people's eyes and
What do you say to the person, last question, who says, yeah, that's a problem that we'll never solve. We'll never end this fight. So what's the point of voting this way or doing this thing, one way or the other? Why does it matter?
I say, well, what if they'd said that about slavery? To me, that's just a ridiculous thing to say.
I agree. It's totally ridiculous.
With God, all things are possible. And this is wrong. It's an evil.
Yeah.
And God hates it.
Yeah.
And we're on his side. And so we will have victory. And slavery was as wrong, from day one as it could be. And people fought and fought and fought and fought until it was eradicated. Yeah. And so we just have to do the same thing.
That's great. This has been awesome.
Thank you.
This has been so awesome. You can always check the Women's Choice Resource Center out yourself, and I would highly encourage you to. What is your website?
So for partners, it's prebornfriends.org.
Okay.
Prebornfriends.org.
Prebornfriends.org. So go check that out. And if you have friends, family member, friends of family member, friends of friends who are in a what we would consider crisis pregnancy, meaning they are pregnant and don't know what to do about it, unexpected, maybe even at risk for abortion, then please recommend them come to the Women's Choice Resource Center. It is an incredible environment with women who and men who love Jesus and want to see all life be fought for and advocated for. And what an awesome honor to be a part of something like that. So thanks again for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Coming up next, we've got Worship and Weather with Pastor Kelsey.
Hello and welcome to Worship and Weather with Kelsey Barker. When Kelsey Barker reads off the Worship and Weather for the 14th of March.
And also, Pastor Derrick watching Kelsey Barker read off the Worship and Weather from the 14th.
I'm Kelsey Barker.
And I'm Derrick.
And this is your weather.
And worship.
Very serious business here, the worship and weather with me, Kelsey Barker. Here we go, guys. Just kidding. I was honestly just trying to get you to break in that whole thing. I think I did it. Anyways, we here have some interesting weather coming up for you tomorrow. I don't know if you noticed, but your weather this weekend has been a little bit more rainy after a beautiful week.
Yes.
It's a little bit moist, as they say. I've heard that's some people's favorite word, moist.
Moist, as I say it.
Interesting. And so here's your weather for tomorrow, my friends. So we have about 70% chance of precipitation. It's going to be a high of 74 and a low of 51. So very, very nice.
Very agreeable weather,
But
temperature-wise.
A little bit wet.
Yeah.
So as Derrick instructed you several episodes ago, get your goggles ready for the wet temperatures.
Yes.
And wet temperatures, that makes sense. And get on over to church because we are continuing with our series, All Systems Go. And we've got some worship for y'all tomorrow morning. I want you to know, I, as your worship pastor, have been petitioning unto my pastors, being pleased, let us worship the Lord some more. Because I don't know if you noticed last Sunday, we only did 2 songs. And they have heard my cries and insistence, and we're doing 3 songs this coming Sunday. Just kidding. We are allowing a little bit more preaching time this past Sunday and this Sunday just because we're handling some more complex topics.
We are.
That takes some more time. Actually, took much more time
Yes.
than we thought this past Sunday.
Yes, we did.
And so for this Sunday's songs, we've got God So Loved, one of our newer ones. We've got Cornerstone, which is a reimagining of On Christ a Solid Rock. Great song. And we are going to finish it off with your favorite song right now, King of Kings.
It's a good one.
It is a good one.
It's a very good one.
Well, and it's, I think, apropos going into what we're talking about, which is how the world has not made God their King of Kings.
That's right. It really fits much of what we talked about with Laurie as well. That we kind of face right now these like 2 currents, which it's not right now. It's always been this way. The kingdom of the beast of Satan and the kingdom of the Lamb, Jesus, and they're always at war with one another, always at odds with one another. Yeah. And our world wants people to believe that there is no truth.
It's very true.
That there is no objectivity, and yet we believe that there is a king on his throne.
We do.
And that he has a divine economy that he has put in place, and that when we live out that economy, we're blessed, and when we don't, we find problems.
Yes.
And that's what we're seeing.
And I would even say that it's critical that they understand what the truth is. Which sets us up nicely for Launchpad Week 2 of All Systems Go, which
That's right.
You're going to be talking about something critical.
That's right, critical theory, and I'm really pleased with actually how Sunday turned out.
I think it was great.
Initially James kind of didn't think he would need that much time to do what he was doing with postmodernism, and I think the more he dug, the more he realized I really need to set the context.
Yes,
and I'm glad he did. We made the decision on the fly in the middle of first service. If you were in there, I had a whole section that I was going to be doing that was actually meant to be even longer than his part. It's going to end up being about the same. But we realized we're not going to have time during the service to do all of it. And rather than even trying to get into some of it, we just made the decision, you do postmodernism, I'll do critical theory this tomorrow. And I'm glad we did that because what I'm going to be talking about tomorrow really, James set the stage perfectly for what we're going to be doing. And it's given me a little more time to reflect on it and to think, for lack of better terminology, critically about it within our own context as a church and as believers. And I really believe it's the most important sermon I've probably ever preached.
Wow.
I say that with all seriousness.
No pressure.
It is a really important message. It's one that I feel like is like erupting right now. I'm trying to hold it in. I want to preach.
I keep on telling you to get out of my office.
Right.
I keep on hearing it.
Please, yeah.
I'm going to hear it Sunday.
Right. I was really ready Sunday, and so when we made the call to not, I was like, oh my gosh, another week of having to hold this in. But I'm glad because it's allowed me to ruminate more and be even a little more clear on certain aspects of this that I think are really important. And so come to church tomorrow.
It's going to be great.
And seriously, this is important stuff. It is incredibly I think we will look back on this. I really do. This is not an over dramatization. I think we will look back on this and kind of see this as a sort of watershed moment for our church, where people make the decision. They're either on board with the vision and the approach to truth, or they're not. And we desire unity in this, and so I think that it's a really important thing to be a part of.
Well, a lot of what you guys are talking about is worldview centric.
It's all worldview centric.
And if you can't agree on how you view the world,
then you're going to have problems.
Then how can you agree about anything?
Yeah, and I will say, people who hold the postmodern view, and let me just be like completely honest with you, you do hold postmodern views. It may not be your overwhelming, like, number one primary lens, but I don't think anyone can rightly say, living in the world, that they don't have some postmodernism in their leanings. It's how we're programmed.
I mean, we are soaked in it.
Yeah, and so it's why we're talking about this stuff, so that we can uncover these things and go, you know what, I do think that, and I need to reject that. It's been convicting for me. I mean, there have been aspects of this that I've been reading about and realizing that, man, my positions on these have not been strong enough because my view of these things have not been clear enough. And so it really is important for people to be there, at least to tune in. But I think being there, really, you get a feel for, it's just different.
Well, and Paul talks about being transformed by the renewing of your mind.
Right.
Which is something that only the Lord can do.
Right.
And that only comes from offering yourself as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God.
Right.
And I think if you take that passage, if you aren't doing that, something else is happening in that. Even if you're not purposely on the daily, trying to inundate yourself with views that are contrary to the Bible, it's going to happen.
It is.
'Cause it's the world that we live in. And so if we aren't letting ourselves be transformed purposefully, and aren't, doing what we need to do in order to be transformed by the Spirit and by the Word and by good fellowship,
it's true.
The opposite will happen.
It's true.
So,
es verdad for those of you who speak Spanish. Come tomorrow. It's been great having you on here. Hope to see you tomorrow. Until then, have a good morning, City on a Hill.